Welcome back, guys. Today, we're going to talk about having too much in your site. By this, I mean there's just way too much data in your website to the point that it has become literally bloated. As I stated in the previous video, most WordPress sites take up a lot of resources after you've started to add a ton of WordPress plugins, images, pages, posts, and other demo content. Perhaps your WordPress theme is just bloated with tons of code too. In this case, you really want to ask yourself, do I really need this? In fact, a lot of times, it's super easy to go through your WordPress site and install a bunch of plugins because it makes your site user experience really amazing. And that's great. But you really need to ask yourself, do I really need this for every single item on your site? If you really haven't thought about this, maybe you need to go back to your WordPress site, go through every single item, and perhaps delete some plugins. For the ones that you don't need, delete them and deactivate them. One thing to remember is, when you first installed a WordPress theme, it usually comes with a lot of demo content that has been built into it to show you what the site could potentially look like. That said, if you install the demo content and you just tweak it a little bit here and there, and you don't go back and delete all the demo content, then your site is going to load extremely slow. This often includes unnecessary images, posts, and pages that simply clog up your site. That is what's happening here. A lot of themes will come with tons and tons of amazing features that look amazing, and it could potentially increase your conversions, increase your sales, and all this great stuff. But at the end of the day, the more features and options there are in a theme, the more code there is. And the more code there is, the slower the site will run. Plugins are actually a huge variable that will slow down your site too, and they'll create security backdoors as well. Let me clarify on this here. WordPress itself, when you install it, is secure, but the plugins that you've installed are developed by third-party people and are not related to WordPress in any way. They are often programmed without regards to standards. Even though they could be programmed to their highest standards, they're not directly from WordPress. That's something to keep in mind. There is no real standard for plugins. It's almost like having a computer, whether it's a PC or Mac, and you're installing to your computer a software from different third parties instead of from Microsoft. And you don't know how they programmed it. You don't know if their programming standards are up to par. You don't know any of that. You just know that you install the software. That's it. Now, it's super easy to want to start installing tons of different plugins for your WordPress site because it can make the user experience a lot better. That's why you really need to ask yourself every time you install something, do I really need this? So, our recommendation to you is to try to stick with a maximum of 10 plugins per WordPress site, if that's possible. If you have to have more plugins, then you really need to think about making sure that your web hosting plan can actually take it. Make sure you've got enough speed, you've got enough resources to be able to handle that. That's another reason why you need to have a good web hosting plan, which we'll talk about in just a minute. The number of images is fine, and we'll discuss how to squeeze them down. But when you get to a point where you have hundreds of images or even thousands of images, that can be a problem in itself. Also, when you create posts and pages, perhaps try to remove all the ones that you don't need first. This will usually speed up your site a little bit. We've seen websites that have had literally hundreds or even thousands of posts, and those sites often take a lot more resources to run. Having a lot of these kind of sites on shared hosting plans will slow your site down. So, go ahead and do a quick cleanup of your site now and really ask yourself, do I really need this? No matter whether it is a plugin or a page or an image.